So before, we started out factoring this right here, but there was no number in front of it. Now there's a number in front of it. Look, there's a 5 right there. Okay? Now let's read through the definition real quick. Let's do that together. To factor trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, find two integers m and p. That's the same concept that you guys have been doing, m and p. With this, guys, stop. With the sum of b and the product and a product of ac. Now, that little part got a little confusing right there at the end, but this is the main thing I want you to look at. When you see a number in front of it, as for a, okay, when you see a number in front of that x squared, you need to multiply that 5 times whatever terms at the end. Now, typically they use the letter c. So essentially, we need to multiply a times c. Okay? So when you multiply that out, you get 30, right? 5 times 6 gives me 30. Correcto?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty-o. Now, whenever you see a number in front of that x squared, like 5, in this case it's 5, 5x squared, underlined in green, okay? We need to multiply that 5 times that 6, okay? We need to multiply these two numbers at the end. All right? Now, once you get that number, in this case we figured out it's 5 times 6 gives me 30. Once we get that number, now we need to do what we have been doing. We need to find factors of 30, okay? So factors of 30 that equal out to what? Well, not 13, but negative 13, okay? So we need to do our factors of 30 and our sum. Same little T-chart, okay? Now, what you need to understand about this, that's a positive 6 times a positive 5, so we have a positive 30, all right? Yeah, you multiply the 5 times the 6, okay? Underline in green. Multiply that. They call those the A and C terms.
Well, what did you do with like the x squared?
The x squared, that just stays right there. We're not messing with it right now. We're leaving it be. Okay, it's a good question. Okay, now that we've multiplied our 6 times 5, we got 30. Now we need a factor of 30, positive 30. That equals a negative 13. So if I need my sum to be a negative 13. What's a factor of 30 that can get to that? That if we add those factors together, we're going to get a negative 13. Good. A negative 10 times a negative 3. Okay, so negative 10 times negative 3 gives me a positive 30. I'm sorry, so that's a check. And it also gives me a sum of negative 13. So that works. Okay. Now we have our two numbers. So essentially we have figured out, like over here on the right, it identifies your M and your P. You guys see that over to the right? We factor out this term. And it already has that worked out for you. Now, okay, notice right here they have. Oh, I'm sorry, Clay. I just keep hitting stuff over here. Jeez Louise. Okay, sorry. Okay. Now notice right here they pretty much put our M and our P right here. So we had a negative 10. We figured out it's negative 10 and negative 3. Okay, so they put that negative 10 and negative 3. Now from here, this is our factor by grouping. Notice that these have a common factor of a 5x. Do you guys see that?
Wait, what?
5x squared and minus 10x, right here, these two factors. They have a common factor of 5x. Okay? So now we're factored by grouping. We're grouping these terms together. What about over here? I have a negative 3x and a positive 6. What's a common factor of these two?
3.
Well, negative 3.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Negative 3. Right here. If you factor this 5x squared minus 10x, okay, you factor out a 5x, so then 5x times x gives me a 5x squared, so I'm good. 5x times a negative 2 gives me a negative 10x. Okay? Yeah, we're working backwards pretty much.
Wait, what? 5x. I don't even like that.
Shh, A equals 5, B equals 27. Shh, guys, stop talking. And your C equals 10. Does everybody understand that? Remember, A, B, C. Okay? Now, you need to find two numbers with a sum of 27. Okay? That's fine. We know that. So we need two numbers that equal 27. Guys, stop talking. And a product. Now here's our difference. Look here. We have a number in front of this x squared. There's a 5 there. There's a coefficient. Okay? So that means we can't just factor it out like we typically do. In this case, we need to multiply a times c. Okay? Now once we get that down, so if we multiply a times c.
Oh, you get B.
Well, no, we get 5 times 10. What do I get?
Oh, 15.
50. Okay? So now we have our 50. We have our a times c. That's good. Now, we need factors of 50 that equal up what?
27.
Perfect. Good job.
Oh, thank you.
Good job. So we need to, let's make our little factor tree. And let's make our sum over here.
I remember Mr. Factory.
Okay? So we need factors of 50. Give me some factors.
10, 5,
40,
50,
just kidding.
1, 2,
50 and 1.
2, 25.
2 and 25. Let's stop right there. That's good. Now, factors of 50. How do we get 10 plus 5, 15. 50 plus 1, 51.
27. That's 27.
25 and 2 gives you 27. So there's our bingo.
You're a winner, Mr. Slogan.
Back on track. Okay, so now, before, remember we just wrote x plus 2, then x plus 25. We're not doing that here. Okay? What we need to do is we found our two terms that equal 50 and add up to 27. So when you go to write this thing, you're going to keep everything the same except, okay, I'm going to have a positive 2x and a positive 25x. What's left? I have a positive 10 at the end. Just looking at this from the very beginning, okay, from the very beginning. You cannot factor this out like we have been doing. So this is why we're taking this extra step, if you want to call it. Because essentially we do have to do the same thing, but then we need to group our terms together, okay? So from here, if we started out right here, you can't factor it out, okay? So that's why we're doing all this work. We're splitting up this 27x. You can think about it like this also. So that, look here. Now, are there terms that we could group together? What can we group together that has common factors?
10 and 5.
What did we do?
That's what I made my bad.
Well, let's think about this. We need to group together that 5x squared and that 25x, and also the 2x and what? 10.
I told you.
Okay.
Why did you figure out that?
Well, look at the difference. I flipped these two terms because I want my common factors together. Looks like I have a common factor of maybe a 5x. Yeah, 5x.
27x.
No.
So, We're here with the 5x squared plus 25x plus 2x plus 10. Now, we've grouped together our common factors. Notice our 5x squared and our 25x. The greatest common factor of that would be a 5x. Now, what would be left? An x plus what? Good. Now, if we found the greatest common factor of 2x plus 10, okay, what would that be? It would just be 2. What's going to be inside our parentheses? X plus 5. Okay. Now, last step to this is we're going to group our terms together. I got my 5x here. I have my plus 2 here, Allie. And because I have 2 of these x plus 5s, we can essentially group them together right here with my x plus 5. Now, if you FOILed that out, you would get the same exact answer of what we started with up here. Same exact answer.
Okay, so what would be wrong
If you FOIL that out. So, if you look at your 3 terms right here and you say to yourself, okay, they have a common factor of a number. So, this makes it a little bit easier. What I mean by that is, I can factor out a 4 from these 3 terms. Now, that's what they did right here. So, they had their original equation over here. And all they did was factor out a 4. Okay? So, what they had left was the x squared. So if you multiplied 4 times 4x squared, you get 4x, of course. 4 times the 6x gives me that 24x, so that means we're good here. And my 4 times my 8 gives me a positive 32. So, that's all they did was factor out that 4. That's literally all they did. Okay? Now, since we have it in this form, is there a number in front of this x squared?
No.
Do I have a leading coefficient?
No.
No. So that means we can kind of go back to our original factoring strategy, which makes it a whole lot easier. Okay? So when we go to factor x squared plus 6x plus 8, so let's go ahead and factor out our x squared plus 6x plus 8. So we need a common factor of 8. So let's make our little factor tree. What are some factors of 8? There we go. Let's just stop right there. If you add 4 plus 2, you get 6. So look. 4 times 2 gives me 8, so that's good. And then 4 plus 2 gives me 6. Okay? So that works. Now, what we need to do is put this in our little x plus 4 and x plus 2. Okay? So because we could find a greatest common factor, we don't have to do all that kind of grouping together, really. Notice here, since we have a common factor of 4, we don't need to do all that work what we did before. Okay? We just factor out the 4, and then we're left with that x squared plus 6x plus 8. Now, the last thing to this is, whatever you factor out, you have to lead off with that. You have to put that number in front of it. So we factored out a 4, so you need to put 4 in front of this. And that'd be your answer.